Listen to me try prove my right to exist and be happy within 5 minutes. Now you might not know me, but I'm Jude. I am a content creator in TikTok, better known as. I am an advocate for trans rights as I am a trans woman myself. I want to clarify that gender dysphoria is a mental condition, not a mental disorder, not a mental illness. It's a chronic mental condition that you have to deal with for the rest of your life. It's not something that's completely curable, but it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with the person. You cannot compare it to schizophrenia, as gender dysphoria is not delusional. There are studies that back that everything a person with gender dysphoria feels is valid and not a hallucination. It is not like body integrity dysphoria. This is what body integrity dysphoria is if you don't know. But there are men that experience body integrity dysphoria towards their genitals without experiencing gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria goes much deeper than wanting to cut your genitals off. It's also not like body dysmorphia or anorexia or bulimia, because transitioning isn't harmful but starving yourself is. So first off, I want to start off with what is a woman. Now this is very controversial, but let's talk about it. So my definition of a woman goes much deeper than a social construct. I define being a woman as someone who has female characteristics and identifies with them. Now these can be physical or mental. What do I mean by mental? There are studies that show that transgender women usually have female characteristics in their brain. This study includes research that transsexualism is associated with a distinct cerebral pattern. Now what does the study particularly show? It shows that males that were born with anatomic abnormalities towards their genitals, so they had to have them kind of like amputated, or they just weren't born with them. They were raised as females, as directed by doctors, and most of these turned out to be male. Brain research might be in its infancy stage, but the few research articles we do have indicate a difference with trans people. If you want a case study, you could look at the David Reimer case. What does this all say? It says that you can't force someone to be trans even if they have abnormality. In the same breath, you can't force a trans person to be cis. Second point, trans people have only existed recently. No, they haven't. There's a text called the Karma Sutra that was written thousands of years ago that references Hijra as a third sex. Also, trans people exist in animals. It's not something that's unnatural. Third point, it's just a phase where it's all in your head. No, it's not. There are hundreds of research articles that back gender dysphoria and say that transitioning is the best form of treatment towards someone who experiences gender dysphoria. It also states how rarely detransitioning occurs. There are higher regret rates in cosmetic procedures like breast augmentations or even kneecap replacements. Here's a study towards that. Transitioning destroys your body. No, it doesn't. Most of the changes are reversible. You have to get doctoral and psychological approval in order to get a risky procedure such as bottom surgery, so most regret rates are due to complications. Fifth point, you should wait until your brain is fully developed to transition. Most of you know your gender before the age of 18. Most of us do as well. Most of these changes are reversible, and you have to go through psychological evaluation, especially as a minor, in order to get on gender-affirming procedures. I did, and most of my trans siblings did as well. 6. A trans woman is the same thing as a gay man. They're just more extreme. Being trans is who you go to bed as, and being gay is who you go to bed with. You get that? A trans person can be straight, gay, bisexual, whatever. It's a gender and not a sexuality. Now, cross-gender specifically can be straight or gay, but they are most definitely not trans. Seventh point, trans people are against God. The Bible doesn't explicitly state anything against trans people. It explicitly goes against homosexuals and cross-dressers. Now we've learned that there is a difference between gay people, trans people, and cross-dressers. Eighth point, trans women are autogynophiles that sexualize a female experience. This doesn't make sense for the trans women that experience gender dysphoria at prepubescent ages. The existence of trans men also disproves this. Am I saying that AGPs don't exist? No, but actual trans people aren't autogynophiles. The difference between a crossdresser and a trans person. Come on now. Although a trans woman can crossdress at first, it's a stage and not a fetish. Ninth point. Trans women are misogynistic and anti-feminist. What man would logically sacrifice his privilege and place in society in exchange for a death sentence? I would also like to add that if another woman's beauty, womanhood, or experience threaten you, then that's an internal issue. You're either lacking insecurity in yourself or education. Most of us acknowledge that we're not XX biological females, and we never will be. 10th point, trans women are perverts who solely transition to prey on women. Again, with the power that men hold, if their goal was to truly harm others, they wouldn't choose a path marked by discrimination, medical hurdles, and constant public scrutiny. It just defies logic. Now, we have seen that they are very capable of harming women and children without dressing up as women. This is why 98% of violent crimes are convicted by men. They don't need permission, they don't need you to feel safe, they don't care about that. I also wanted to let you know that trans women who take hormones most likely have erectile dysfunction. Why would a predator want that? 7th point, being trans is contagious. Yes, people influence other people, but the most a trans person can do is cause someone to explore themselves. But it doesn't end in the conversion of someone becoming trans, queer, gay, whatever. Not just because I see a cis person like you walking down the road doesn't mean that I'm just gonna want to be a cis person. Now, if you see me walking down the road, that doesn't make you want to be trans, does it? If someone does come out as gay or trans, that's because they discovered something that was already pre-existing. Something that was just buried deep inside. And yes, these transitioners do occur, but they were never really trans to begin with. They were just exploring their gender. Although this stereotype conflicts with another one, we are not trying to trick men. There are some gay men that solely transition for male attention and validation, but most, if not all, trans women aren't risking their lives just for some short-term sexual gratification. That's not who we are. I want to end this video by saying that not all trans women see being a woman as frilly skirts with nail polish and talking to your friends about boys. Gay men do that and they are not classified as women. We identify ourselves as women the same way you do. We were just born like this. There's obviously something deeper than the societal construct of gender, but if Republicans stopped holding funds from medical research into transgender brains, then we could really figure out the root cause of transgenderism. However, most people like to use baseless stereotypes and prejudices because they've only ever seen us in porn. We exist outside of those spaces, and we are not mentally ill people trying to spoil your earth. There are thousands of research articles that show why transitioning is the best care in the world for people who experience gender dysphoria. It's harmless and it's not hard to understand. 0.5% of the population is not going to ruin your entire country. Focus on the other 0.5% of the population who are taking advantage of you. And I want to remind you that Donald Trump and conservatives didn't really care about us before. It wasn't until they realized they could create a culture war out of us and use us as a distraction. We're not asking for special treatment, we're asking for the right to exist, something every person deserves.